right, welcome to the Autofocus podcast. I am Scott.
And I'm Dan.
And this is episode 10. We've made it to 10 episodes. Kind of exciting. You know, most podcasts don't actually make it past like podcast 7, so we're rolling. We're starting to feel good, getting exciting. Yeah. We'll start off a little bit what we're going to talk about tonight, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty where you guys can find us. So tonight's topic is going to be about a pre-shoot kind of checklist.
Which every photographer and videographer should have.
Yeah, I mean, like, it doesn't have to necessarily just be gear. Like, it can straight up be, like, photography, or it can be, like, mental, right? So, like, what is it you want to accomplish? Or it can be physical, like, what type of gear you actually need. But we'll get into exactly what all that's about. But let's start with thank you, everyone, for listening and supporting Dan and I. You can find us on YouTube and Facebook if you're a video watcher. If you're audio only, you can find us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor FM, Breaker, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and Dan, you want to say it?
Drum roll, please. iTunes.
iTunes, Apple Podcast. All right, cool. All right, so yeah, I mean, it's a fun topic. It's something that, honestly, if you're a hobbyist or you're thinking about doing this for like a living, you really should have. You know, I keep mine digitally on like just my computer, my Google Notes.
Yep, it's so important, especially if you're doing it professionally, doing it and you're getting paid.
Yeah,
it's unbelievably important. Man. Yeah.
Right, so it's like to go into a shoot and not be prepared, man. I'd be like super nervous.
It even comes down to do a checklist on charging your batteries. You know, I've gone to so many shoots and I'm like, oh my God, I forgot to charge my battery, or I haven't exported the SD cards and stuff like that. It's crazy.
Yeah. So let's start super simple. So we'll start with like photos, because I feel like the photo checklist is definitely less than the video.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
I think a lot of, even the gears is less, like there's not as much traditionally to bring. So for me, I like to start with the gear before I get into the mental stuff. So like you said, we start with charging your batteries, because your camera doesn't work without batteries, and you can't record anything or capture any images without a clean SD card. So traditionally the night before, or
those are the two most important things.
Without those you can't do anything. Right. So yeah, that's the first thing I do. I don't know if it's the same for you, but
yep.
So we both our cameras take just like standard SD cards. Unfortunately, we both use Mac, so we need like dongles and all kinds of stuff. I mean, back in the day when we first started, a lot of the computers had SD cards in them, which made the process a lot easier to, like, you know, format cards.
That was one of the biggest things that Apple fell on was when they took it off
wrong.
The
it's
Mac.
just I think it's wrong. I mean,
yeah.
I've got like 3 different dongles, USB, and this. It's frustrating for sure.
Yeah.
How many batteries do you have?
So with me,
for photo, we're talking photo.
Oh, for photos, okay. Well,
let's just talk photo.
So same thing.
I knew you were just about to get real heavy right there. I was just like, wait a second.
So for photos, I have probably about 15 Canon batteries. For photo, I obviously wouldn't bring all of them, but I do make sure the first thing I do when I have a shoot or I have something, everything's laid out. I make sure all my batteries are charged. I have like 6 chargers, so all my batteries are going at once. And yeah, that's the first thing I check. Then I'll go to my SD cards, clear them all, make sure I'm I'm all set for whatever the shoot is.
I think I have 7 batteries for my my camera, my A7 Sony, and I have 2 chargers, but they each have 2 like battery slots in them, so I can charge 4 batteries at a time.
Nice. Yep.
And they typically take like 2 hours, maybe 2 to 3 hours to charge. Like, it doesn't take that long.
Yeah.
And then same with the SD cards. I mean, I have probably 4 or 5 SD cards. Yeah, 5 SD cards, all different sizes and stuff. I mean, the one I use in my camera, I think, is 128 gig. Yeah, it's 128 gig. So like I can shoot for hours on that thing. Like, even if I had information on there from another shoot or whatever, I probably would be fine from
Now,
SD card
has that ever
perspective.
happened to you where you go out and you're like, oh my God, either I have stuff that I don't want to erase on this card and it's full, or battery issue or anything, you know?
The Actually, you were around the first time it ever happened. So traditionally, like I have enough space, but I've talked about this before. I started taking photos at a car show, and Dan was at one of them, and I had filled up the car that I had. I had taken like 850 photos, and I think it was our first one. So like I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything.
Yeah, yeah.
And I like I got like towards the end of the show, and I was like, dude, I filled up my SD card and I didn't bring another one. And you were like, I got you, no big deal. So that was really the only time I had done something. Luckily, I was shooting for myself. So like at the end of the day, like there was no client expectation other than like I wanted to make sure we were providing enough photos of the event and stuff. But yeah, that was the only time. How about you? Have you ever like gotten to a point where you like couldn't delete anything?
Yeah, so it's happened to me a bunch of times, to be honest. Client work and my own, especially when it's my own, it's not as serious. Like if I'm just going out
Your
shooting
checklist is
wildlife,
right.
right? I'm just like, oh, I'll grab my stuff in the morning and then I'll, go out and shoot. But it happened the other day. I was shooting and this deer and this baby were walking. And I thought they were going to cross the river, and I started clicking, and then it went to card full. And I had like three shots in card full. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm in my kayak, so it's hard for me to like reach back and like get everything.
Right.
And I was like, do I just reformat my card? Like, what do I do? I was freaking out. And
yeah.
I almost missed the moment, because I had to unzip my bag, really figure it out
Reach
and get
back.
it. But
Yeah.
so it was just an inconvenience, but yeah, it really messed my shot up.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's it. I hate when you get to the end of a memory card when it's full.
Oh yeah.
It's always at the most inconvenient time.
Yeah.
For sure. So yeah, battery, video, and then my next thing I always look at is what lenses am I going to need?
Mm-hmm.
Like what type of shoot is it going to be? Do I need my wide angle? And we've talked about this. We try to take everything, but you never end up using it all. So especially like if I'm walking in the woods to take like landscapes or hiking or like walking around town, maybe I've got my kids with me. I try to pack as light as possible so that like I don't have weight to deal with all that stuff. So always try to decide like what focal length is going to be the most useful or what lens might be the most useful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something that I still struggle with today is I used to pack my bag with everything. And especially when you're walking in the woods and hiking, that gets so heavy. And I sit there and I'm like, I didn't open my bag one time. Like, why do I need all this stuff? But the moment I leave it at home and I don't bring it, that's the day I'm going to need it.
You feel naked, right? You feel like you should have had it.
So,
so then I start with lenses, and then I always check things like, filters and like cleaning cloths and just stuff that like I think I could use or, I have like 3 camera bags. Like I've got a big one that I keep everything in.
I was going to ask, do you keep your stuff already in your bag, or do you, you always take it out?
Since we've been doing this podcast, my workflow has been a little bit different. I've tried to keep my studio set up like this so that if you and I record a podcast, it happens a lot quicker than normal. Yeah. But traditionally, I keep it in like a big backpack, and I could show you. But it's made by Low Pro. It's big. The bottom half is all my camera storage, and the top half is like a big open thing where I keep like all the batteries. But it's big. It's really designed for like, travel. Like if I went on an airplane, it'd keep everything safe. But it's nice because it's got shoulder straps, so I can walk around with it. I also have a like fanny pack one that I love because I can spin it around.
Oh yeah,
when I need
nice
it,
and
then put it on my back.
Yeah.
It's kind of a big fanny pack. Like I'm sure everybody's picturing this like
I know, right?
like 80s like fanny pack.
Those
it's dark
cool
blue
fanny packs
and like big heavy duty buckles on it. It's got the best convenience if I bring just my camera and my lens because it's like not that big, but I can quickly get them in and out if I'm not going to carry my camera on like a strap or anything like that. So I like that as well. And then also I've got an insert I can put into a backpack. So a lot of times, if we're traveling somewhere and I like when we went to Disney World, I didn't bring my huge camera bag because I'm like, we're going to have like water bottles. The kids are going to want to put stuff. So I just put a regular backpack, but I have this insert that allows me to put 2 lenses and my camera and all like the SD cards and batteries. So that's a lot lighter. Yeah, but that's a good question. Camera bags and storage, that's definitely part of like the checklist on like what you're going to use. How about you? Like, how do you keep your stuff normally, and how do you travel, and like what kind of type of...
Yeah, so same thing. I have a bunch of backpacks. I usually have my stuff in a Pelican case. But in my backpack I have lens wipes. I have all my cleaning stuff that stays in there.
I just want to explain.
I never take
so
it
a
out.
Pelican case, for people that aren't photo and video, it's like a big
Hard case, yeah.
hard like case, and it's all padded, super protective,
waterproof. Yeah.
They're great.
Yeah, so I always have my bag and I have my lens cloths and all that in there, but I usually never forget my lens to bring a lens or a camera. I never would forget that. It's usually the little things, so I always try to keep them together. But yeah, for the most part, I mean, I have my bag and my Pelican case that I always bring if I go on a shoot. So yeah.
you always most of the time you bring your Pelican case with you.
Yeah, when I'm going on a video shoot, I'll bring my Pelican case every time. Sometimes in the kayak, I'll just have my backpack. I've rarely brought my Pelican case
in the kayak.
Sometimes I do because I have a spot in the back that fits it perfectly.
That's
it's a
cool,
big,
and
it's
waterproof
spot.
when it's closed,
right. So I don't have to. Yeah, so I don't have to worry about it. Yeah,
that's always scares me, man. That'd be nerve-wracking for sure.
Yeah, I mean, all my stuff's insured, so if something happens, it'd be a pain in the ass, but
you could get
recover
your
it.
money back.
Yeah.
Cool. So we went. Camera bags, prepping everything, lenses and filters. All right. So from a gear. And then always want to have a strap.
I know. I need to get a strap. I still don't. But do you clean your gear beforehand? Like your lenses and stuff the night before you have a shoot?
Good question. I think it depends on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So if it's something for myself, no. I know that's kind of
I'm right
just
with you on
because
that.
it's kind of lazy, but at the end of the day, I can do it in the field. Like there's no pressure. But if it's like for an event like the car shows, or I'm doing like portraits or something, a lot of times I'll clean the lenses. Haven't really cleaned. How often do you clean the sensor in your camera? Unless you notice
not
something.
Often. Right.
Yeah, so like
I try not to touch it, but yeah.
Yeah, same. So like I clean the lenses are super easy to clean. Like I've got one of those little like squeegee things that allows for you to like quickly just spray out any dust or whatever.
Yeah.
I'll just do that before I put a lens on anyway. So a lot of times you don't have to unless there's like a hair or something or like big stuck on it. But you gotta get a strap or a leash or something like that. Or
I know.
You know what you might like is we're getting back to gear here. This is episode 7 all over again. Or episode 8. What's the company that makes the tripod that you want? It's the same company that makes
Peak Design.
Yeah, Peak Design, right?
Yeah,
so that's the same company that makes my camera strap, which I love. But they make like what's called a capture plate, and I'm sure you've seen them before. But they go on your backpack. You would like that because you'd be able to just unclip it. And put that on. I've thought about it a couple times, but like the type of stuff I do, a lot of times it's in my bag until I get to the point of where I am, and then I use my strap. But
see, and the thing is too, with my camera, I have a handle on it, my cinema camera, so I'm usually just carrying it by the handle.
You're talking video though.
With video, yeah. See, I don't do too many paid photography things unless it's like taking portraits of someone
portraits.
Right. But I'm not gonna shoot a wedding.
But you used to do real estate stuff.
Real estate stuff too, yeah. But with that, you're on a tripod in the house, so I would never need a strap.
Yeah, that's true.
But I want to get the Peak Design one that you have. But
dude, I love that strap. It's perfect. It's quick. The quick connects on it are great. So if you're not going to use it, you can take it right off, and you can also put it on your back. So that like if you're walking and you know you're not going to take anything, it like with the way the strap sets up, you can like it's definitely worth it. Something to look into. So that would be it for gear, really. That's actually related to the camera itself, but I'll tell you here. Just checking time, 15 minutes. How about non-photography stuff that you bring? So like I always try to bring a water bottle with me. So if we're like,
Yeah.
if I'm hiking or whatever, I always try to fill up like my hydro flask with water the night before, or like make sure it's with my stuff. Like, what do you bring to like when you go and take photos, like wildlife photos that isn't photography related?
Yeah, so with me, I'm super last minute about it. As when I wake up in the
Great.
morning, I'll grab a water bottle, I'll grab some snacks in the fridge or the cabinet, and just throw them in my bag, and I'll be like, that's good for the day.
Yeah.
I don't really plan. I should, but I don't plan ahead
I
for what I
always
bring.
make sure I have sunglasses too and a hat. Sunglasses
Yep.
and a hat. So a lot of times I had those in my truck already, but it's one of those things where like you can't actually shoot a lot of times with sunglasses on. So having a hat where I can like cover up my eyes so I can see my screen is
Yeah.
important. But also having the sunglasses so if I have a polarizer on, I kind of can see what my camera can see before I take the photo. Sometimes that's helpful. I feel like because you cuts down on reflection so that I'm not just like it just helps me compose a shot or whatever.
Yep. Yeah.
All right, so and then let's talk about the mental aspect. Like, what do you mentally prepare for? So it sounds like you're super last minute most of the time when you're going and doing wildlife stuff. But like the night before, are you thinking like, okay, I'm going to this spot. I've got to,
Definitely think about, like almost like a mental like shot list. I'll think
right,
about everything I'm doing, where I'm gonna go, what I'm gonna do. Yeah, and I'll do the same with clients, like client work. I'll do the
right,
same thing. I'll be like, what can I just mentally visualize what I'm about to shoot. So I
right.
try to really dial it in.
Yeah. So for me, a lot of times I'll actually write in my phone if there's like some shots I need to get. I'll just take those shots and run down them
Yep.
so that I know like okay I need to get like a front shot, a rear right shot, like whatever it is, so that I don't forget. And then at the end, right before everything's done, whether it's with clients or whether it's like an event or something, I make sure that I've gone and gotten all that stuff. Yeah, so I always try to have that that shot list so that I know exactly at the end of the shoot I make sure I've gotten those particular shots that I was mentally preparing for the night
So
before.
so you don't write any of that down. That's all just mental.
No, I do it in my phone. So I'll put it
Oh,
in
okay,
my
okay.
phone. Yeah, I'll put it in my phone just to make sure. Because if it's mental, I'll forget that every
Yeah, of
time,
course. Yeah.
every time. Especially with like any events, those are things that like there's so much going on mentally. If you're just gonna try to remember, you're gonna
Yeah.
forget.
Easy to
Like if you're
forget.
walking around taking photos, there's no way you're gonna remember. Oh yeah, I wanted to get a picture of the what. Yeah, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
So that's good. So and then I also try to if I'm going to a particular location, whether it's personally or for event or portrait or whatever, I always try to like roughly know how long it's going to take me to get there. I try to be super punctual. I'm
Oh yeah.
traditionally not late for anything, so I want to get there like 15 minutes early or half an hour early. The other thing is too, a lot of times from a hobby perspective, if I say I've driven by an area, I take like a mental note. I'll put like a Google marker in my phone so that I know one day I want to come back and take a photo here. So
Oh,
like I kind
nice.
of pre scout the spot sometimes depending on what it is that I'm going to shoot.
Yeah.
Um,
That makes sense.
yeah, especially with some car photography that I've done for people or for myself. It's like, you want to check the spot out before you bring somebody somewhere, just to make sure, it's not like a bogus spot or, there's a fire hydrant exactly where you wanted to take a picture and it's going to be, and then you got to do a lot of post processing, and you know what I mean, and take all that
Yeah.
stuff out. So I try to do my best to pre check out a spot or whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's about it mentally I can think of. There's not much else. I mean, making sure your camera settings. How about do you set your camera up before you head out
So I don't do that, but I do that every single time. As soon as I get out of the car, um,
before you walk to the
I'll set up my
spot?
gear. Yep. I'll make
Yeah,
sure everything. I'll make sure my exposure's right because especially with wildlife and stuff, the sun's coming up, so it's going to be changing your settings.
right.
Within a
Yeah,
couple
I mean,
minutes every time. So
and that's pretty good practice with regardless of what you do, is like before the event or your shoot or whatever it is, to like set your exposure based on the light and all that stuff. Like you should really do that everywhere. A lot of
Yeah.
times now that we've been doing these podcasts, I've tried to set up before I leave, because we were just shooting video, right? So a lot of my picture profiles are different than how I shoot photos and stuff like that. So I'll at least try to like put it in photo mode. That way when I get there, I'm not like, oh man, I really, it takes me 15 minutes to remember what I need to undo so that my color profiles are right and my, whatever, my white balance isn't messed up, just so, because it's the worst if you get back and all of a sudden my white balance was set at 5600 the entire shoot, and it's like I have to manually go back and fix all that. Like it's just a pain in the butt.
Right. Yeah. That's the good thing with photo with white balance is you can change it. You can fix it.
Right. And I shoot raw.
Video
so
is
that's
a lot
helpful.
harder.
So So JPEGs compress the file, so you can't do that. And with RAW, it's basically like an uncompressed, unedited. It gives you a lot more control. You can get a lot more, like, if something's underexposed, you can get a lot more detail back out of it.
You have the chance to kind of correct the photo, bring it back if you
Right.
need to bring it back in certain
Now,
ways.
aren't there some cameras that can shoot raw video now?
Oh, definitely. I mean, but the file size you're doing with that is unbelievably huge. Yeah. Like you're talking, you'll fill up a terabyte in, 15, 20 minutes. Like,
oh, that's crazy.
they're huge. Yeah. But you also have the leeway of changing a lot. So
But a lot of times with experience, it becomes a lot easier to
set up your shot right.
Yeah,
Get everything right. Yeah.
we both been shooting for more than 10 years, so it's gotten a lot easier. You kind of know what your settings are, before. But cool.
Yeah.
Right,
So I would say. I would say for me, another for wildlife before video. Sorry, I always set up waders, boots. Like if I'm going somewhere muddy, I'll lay that stuff out right in the morning, like my kayak paddles, my seat, just because I know I'll forget it if I don't.
I feel like we could do a whole episode, and we should. I'll put it on the episode list of like gear not related to photography, but that we use photography. So like hiking boots, like if you carry a knife or a firearm because you're in the woods, or like we could do a whole episode like kind of talking about all that stuff. But that's for sure. Especially for me, sometimes you end up like maybe shooting like an abandoned building, right? So you feel, maybe a firearm's a good thing to have. Or maybe
this kid's going strapped.
Yeah, you never know, man. You never know. So yeah, that's fun stuff, and that kind of gets back to gear a little bit, but we only talked like photo and video gear before, but we'll get into that for sure on one of these episodes. All right, let's talk video a little bit. This is more your boat than mine, so I'll let you start with that.
Yeah, I mean, with video, it's essentially the same. It's just a lot more gear. I lay out everything, especially when a paid shoot. I'll clean my lenses. I'll clean everything. But yeah, I mean, all in all, it's, you're bringing I'm bringing lights, cameras, lenses. I'll even bring chargers. So I have like 6 different cases, C-stands, light stands, everything.
Wow.
So it's just a lot. And I just make sure it's batteries charged is still number one.
So how do you carry all that stuff to a shoot? Like you just throw it in your car, or like what's
yeah, I have a lot of cases. So they're in Pelican cases. The good thing is a lot of them have wheels. But I also have a video cart, so if I'm doing like a really big shoot, I can pile it all on my cart and just wheel it right in,
and it all
amazing.
fits on there.
Yeah. I actually built it. It's pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So that allows you to put like your C-stands, your lights, your batteries, all that stuff.
Everything, and just make one trip.
Now,
yeah,
I've seen some video carts now that you say that, and they've even got like extension cords built into them, so like you can charge all your stuff while you're there. Does yours have all that stuff?
So yeah, I put one on mine. It breaks down too, so it folds out, and I can down, cool. And I can put it in the car. Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, see, again, that's part of that checklist thing. So it's like being prepared for a shoot makes a big difference, opposed to like showing up with a bunch of random gear just like thrown all over the ground. Like it looks unprofessional. 2, you're not going to be as efficient, right? So like
not at all.
The quicker you work, the more money you can make. People don't realize, especially with video, more so than like photography, is the shoot is actually the shortest part. So, if you let's just say it takes you 2 hours to shoot a commercial, it could take 10 hours to edit
Yeah.
Or so the more efficient you can be at getting there and maximizing your checklist, right? And getting in there, getting out. And even when you shoot and having a checklist, that's what we're going to talk about after this, is like your process, that checklist while you're editing stuff. But
Yeah, and then another thing too is like with the checklist, you know, because you have so many cables and XLR and all that, is also having backups. You know, I always make sure that I have backups just in case something fails. That's probably a different episode, but yeah, I always make sure I have backups.
So when you bring your C100, which is your dedicated video camera, do you bring an additional camera as a video as a backup?
I'll always bring my EOS. I'll always have two cameras, yeah. My EOS R, but mainly I'll shoot two angles. I'll always shoot two angles.
Right. So you always traditionally have it anyway. And if you had to, worst comes to worst, is you only shoot one.
Well, right, you shoot one angle, but that's the good thing about 4K is you can shoot in 4K, shoot wide, and then you can crop in without losing too much.
It could look like two angles.
Exactly,
right?
It looks like two shots. Yep. So there's always backup plan to a backup plan.
Yeah, cool.
But
all right, so we talk about video. So the additional stuff that you normally do for photo, but you've got lighting. You've got like C-stand, so you can hang all your lighting and stuff like that. You've got we talked a little bit about prepping all your lenses more so because you do video like professionally. So you know how long? Like, what if? I mean, have you run into this instance where you go to prep your gear or whatever, and then something's broken, or like you all of a sudden like the yeah, go ahead. You looked like you were like ready to.
No, I was gonna say. Luckily, no. Nothing's been. I've never run into like. Woke up, put my stuff down or whatever, and it's been broken. Yeah, that's never. Thank God, that's never happened. But
yeah, so the only time when I first got into photography, my first camera, I remember wanting to go out, and my battery was like swollen, like I left it in my car. And I couldn't get it, and I was just like. So I ended up just being able to go and buy one. It was just for me, but that's the only time I had like not prepped completely for something. Right? It just wasn't prepared.
Well, but at least you didn't.
Grabbing my camera.
At least you didn't leave the house and go to your spot first and then find out. You know?
Yeah, that would have sucked for sure.
Yeah.
I don't even remember where I was going at the time, but I just remember like grabbing my camera out of my. And now I never leave my stuff in my car because of that moment.
Oh yeah.
And my battery being like all swollen. I only had one at the time, and yeah.
Yeah, with me with the drone back in the day, with the cable, you need to bring the iPhone cable. I can't tell you how many times I forgot that, and then I'd have to ask the client. I'd be like, "Hey, do you guys have like an iPhone charger?"
Luckily, it's like the number one phone.
Right. Normally
States,
people have it, but I just felt like an idiot. I'm like, "Oh my God, I forget this thing every time."
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure your shot list is probably the same for video, right? So like you do, you know, your close-ups, your wide shots, like the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
How does it work when you're like, say you're shooting a commercial for somebody? Do you kind of design the commercial too, or I'm sure you do that with the client a little bit?
Yeah. So, you'd almost create a shot list. They kind of explain what they want, and then mentally you create the video, and then you write down, you know, the shot list of how it's going to play out. When you do that and you stick to it, it's everything's so much smoother. You can obviously get other shots when you need, you know, when something comes up, but if you already know what you're doing, you go there with that plan and you attack it. It's such a smooth process.
So do you do that when you meet with the client the first time? Like, because a lot of times I'm trying to think of myself when I've done video projects myself. I've never this has a lot to do with that checklist. Maybe I've never been to the site before. Like, how do you do that if you've never been to the location that you're shooting at? Have you run into that before?
Right. Yeah. So sometimes, exactly, you don't know. You have no clue. But for the most part, you have an idea of what's going to be shot, so you know what you need to get. But yeah, sometimes if you can't do a shot list, so you just show up and you get it done. Yeah.
I think that's tough. That'd be tough for me. Like, I feel like if I had a plan and then you get there and it's got to be it's thrown off like that.
That's the worst.
I hate that. Right. So you have a plan and then all of a sudden, like, you know, maybe there's somebody parked in the wrong spot, or like lighting's terrible in that area or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's like,
but I can say that probably happens more often than not.
Oh,
I would say almost every single shoot something comes up.
Something pops up.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, let's talk about kind of a checklist for when you get back. So do you normally just drop your bag and you're done, and like the last thing you want to
Ooh,
do is think about what you just did, or are
that's
you
actually a
like,
good one. That's a good one.
yeah, so for me, it depends because I've got kids and you've got kids. So, like, it depends. Obviously, it's situational. But after I've gone and done a shoot, dude, I want to look at the footage. I want to
Yep.
see my photos and the footage instantly because
Yep.
otherwise, sometimes I want to either go back, maybe I didn't get the shot that I was thinking of, or I'm just like so pumped or psyched on whatever I shot that I'm like, yeah, like, I'm getting it.
100%. That's where I'm most motivated is right after the shoot. I can't wait
Sure.
to come back and get it all done. Yeah.
Yeah, so my process traditionally, if I've got the time and the kid, like whatever, or if it's an event, I block off a certain amount of time when I get back to, okay, put my gear down. Traditionally, I pull my SD cards off and put them right on my computer, and then I
Yep.
instantly plug in my batteries as well, because if I've got another shoot or like whatever it is, I want to make sure that again I'm prepared for the next time. But dump everything onto the computer. I still keep everything on the SD card. So I will transfer them to my computer, put the SD card back into the camera so I don't get things confused, because then I know that's the one I shot with. So then I've got two copies. So God forbid there was an error, I opened something up and it's like
But at what point do you delete your SD card?
after I've edited and exported everything.
So do you keep the raw files of everything, or you only keep
I
the finished
do.
copy? Okay.
No, I do keep raw footage of raw files of everything, but God forbid transferring that and editing it. Maybe I like, accidentally put it somewhere and put it in trash can. That way I know on the camera I still have everything.
Still have it. Yep. Yep.
And then once I'm done, a lot of times, so I do things by date, and that'd be a great episode actually, how you organize everything.
Oh, mine's terrible.
Because, yeah, I feel like mine's not great, but I've also talked to other people who said like, oh wow, that's a great way to do it. So I don't
Yeah.
know. It depends. So auto mine's it's always been done by year and date, or year, and then I put the exact date, and then whether I shot photo or video that day, I'll put photo or video, and then if I use multiple cameras, which doesn't happen that often with me, but if I use like a GoPro and something else, or if you gave me footage, I'd put like whatever camera I thought you used, or if it maybe just Dan's footage. That way it's like somewhat organized. Where I recently ran into a problem is where I migrated everything to another external. So all my like paths from Lightroom, where it thought everything was all
Oh, we had to
messed up.
reconnect it all. Yeah.
So I had to go
Yep.
through with every folder, dude, and reselect. It was a
Yep.
pain, but yeah. So I keep everything backed up there, and then I try to go through and star everything that from a photo or even video that was like the right shot. So you know how like when
Just so
you
you're
take
not. It's easy to go quicker.
yeah,
through
so
edits.
and
Yeah.
we're gonna get into like specific programs in our processes down the road, but just like a quick overview, like what are the top 10 that I'm gonna put out on social media, or I'm gonna give to the client, or that I'm gonna use.
Yeah.
So how about you? Like, what's your process when you get back
Yeah.
from a shoot, whatever it is?
When I get back, I unpack everything. Same thing with you. I'll probably the first thing I'll do is get the SD cards onto the computer, onto a hard drive. And I'll unpack all my gear, kind of lay it back out on the table just so everything's kind of organized again.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, footage wise, I organize it so I put it in different folders. Like I'll have it with the podcast and everything. I'll have a Scott, a Dan, and then you go
Right.
into that, and then there's audio, there's video, so separate
Sure.
folders for
Same
that.
thing.
So
Same thing.
Yeah, it's super organized that way. I just have a lot of everything, so it's hard
Yeah,
for me to like. I have so
yeah,
much of random stuff, like wildlife,
I know. Same.
weddings,
So mine,
Yeah.
I don't even organize mine like that, because I feel like you won't remember the genre you shot it. But
Right.
so that's why I do it by date, and it can be confusing. The only thing I do is, so like I've got whether it's work related, I do have separate folders for work related stuff that I
Yeah,
do
that's
for
good.
my job. And then for the car show thing we started, there's also a separate, so that's separate from my personal photo stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then if it was raining out or something, obviously I'd like wipe down my gear, or like if it was dusty or windy or foggy or whatever, just clean up the basics, just clean it all up, and then put it back into like the main way I store everything, and that's
Yeah,
pretty
that's-
much it
that's-
at that point.
Yeah, that's a big thing I do, especially going out on the ocean. Every time I
Dude,
come back, I'll wipe down all my gear, just in case.
yeah, for
Keep it
sure.
clean,
Especially
keep the salt
salt
water
too.
off
Like
it.
salt, yeah,
Yeah.
salt will destroy. Like, not even in that on windy days. Like, like I've had on lenses that are older, sand and stuff from the wind
Oh yeah.
hit the lens, and it'll actually like scratch the lens. So just
Hmm.
making sure that you're getting all that stuff off, so that when you clean it and wipe it down, you're not like scraping that all over all your gear and ruining it. Yeah, I mean, I think that was a good, pretty good rundown of our process and our checklist. Is there anything you want to add? Um,
No, I mean I would say it's pretty similar. We definitely do some similar things. You just don't do much video.
right.
But yeah, I thought that was a good topic. Definitely good to have that discussion because those are things you want to have checklists. You don't want to forget
Oh, for
anything
sure.
on a shoot. So
The more
yeah,
I do it too, the more it becomes a little bit more mental. I remember my first like day where I was like, I'm gonna do like a actual checklist here. I'm gonna like
yeah,
go through and make sure, and then like all the stuff I ended up writing down, I'm like, That's a lot. Like that's to go through each thing
yeah,
each time, but it just you get quicker at it, and you mentally like boom boom, I want to put this here, put this here. Like I'm so like I even put it in the same spot in my truck, like every single time, like
yeah.
my bag, just so when I pull it out, it's like boom.
I can't win. I can't win tonight.
It's all good. We're wrapping it up anyway. So
Uh,
yeah, I'll thanks everyone for listening. I think that was a good episode. Yes. It's good. It's good. So it's a good topic. Thanks, everyone. Please like and follow us on all the social media like YouTube, Facebook, or whatever audio app you use. I'll say thanks for listening to Autofocus Podcast. I'm Scott.
and I'm Dan.
And everyone have a great night.
See ya.